Tolman. Gentlemen, welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you.
Good to see you both.
So, good to see you guys. Brett, I want to start with you. I kind of am intrigued by this. I know we don't know a lot of details, but I will say that what we do know is that she was unarmed. She's an Air Force veteran. She was doing something wrong. I don't condone it. I support the police. But at the end of the day, it seems like there's a lack of transparency here about what happened, who the person was, what went on. And they're saying, oh, there's a report. It was filed, and just take our word on it. That's not how it would normally work.
Yeah, no, it's not at all what would happen in any police district across the country, and it certainly is not what would happen with the FBI. Because it's on the Capitol and the Capitol Police are involved, they're able to use some loopholes to avoid having to turn over a lot of the video or to turn over, information that we would need to really assess whether or not, Sean, this is a good decision or a bad decision by the Capitol Police. It is clothed in secrecy. And that is not how, at least we're being told police shootings are to be handled. And yet it is in this instance.
Jonathan, speaking of secrecy, we don't know the officer's name, and it's not going to be released. So why is he specifically being protected when we have seen in the past that other police officers have not been? What's the difference here?
It's because of who's really being protected here, right? The left. And this shows class warfare, because if this was to happen, an unarmed individual anywhere else in the nation gets shot, they immediately release the officer's name. The fact that it was in the halls of Congress and in an area where, they shouldn't have been there, and technically that is basically a kill zone. When you get into that area that leads into the chamber, it is use of deadly force prohibited. However, she was not armed. There were law enforcement officers behind her. It just comes down to the fact that the congressmen and women on the left are protecting these individuals, and this individual in particular, the same way that they boosted up the four Capitol Police and D.C. Metro Police that came there and testified. They work things the way that they want them. They really don't care whether or not anybody knows this guy's name. I mean, they don't want him to know, but they don't care if anybody wants to know it, because ultimately they only release the names if it politically helps them. And that's why they make such a ruckus about it when it's a white officer that shoots an unarmed black male who's trying to run him over with a car, for instance, which is a weapon. They'll deem him unarmed, and then they'll blow that up in the media. And so I think it's a great example of class warfare and how these individuals handle it versus the way they use it in other situations.
Hey, Brett, you're defending one of the folks that was involved in the Capitol riot. Can you give us an update on where things are?
Yeah, I mean, just to give you one other, litmus test. If Ashli Babbitt had not been shot and killed, she'd be like my client, a female who entered into the Capitol and is being charged with trespass. Now, that's usually a test to see what, the basis for the shooting, for example. What would you charge? What would be the underlying charges? It's not assault. It's not insurrection. We're not seeing any of those charges. So how is this deemed justifiable? So just want to make that point. And on the defense of the January 6th, my client is facing an indictment, has no criminal history, had no intention of breaking the law, thought that they were being allowed to walk into the Capitol because it was hours after anybody had made the forced entry. So I'm concerned that they have taken a one-size-fits-all and charged everybody they can because it fits their narrative, not because it's individualized justice.
Jonathan, I want to go back to this concept here of meeting force with force. We've always been told in the police world that in order to be justified, a police officer has to meet force with the equal force. Ashli was unarmed, as the report shows, as the images show. So how do you clear someone? This police officer has been cleared, but he killed someone who was unarmed with a gun.
It all comes down to the location it was at. If you sneak onto a military base and or in an area where there is, for instance, top secret equipment, and you sneak onto a base, use of deadly force is authorized. For instance, everybody knows you go to Area 51, There's signs posted all over the place, or any military base that says use of force, of deadly force, is justified. And that's what they're using in this case, is that area where Ashli Babbitt was shot was an area where it leads directly into the chamber floor, and so they're going to deem that action by that officer as justifiable. However, like you would see on a military base, if somebody shows no imminent threat of loss of life or serious bodily injury, that they're going to do that. I mean, if somebody's breaking a window and crawling through a window, it doesn't justify the action that this officer took, especially when they're in radio communication with officers that are directly behind her, and they could have been shot. So I think overall, when you look at the tactics of this individual, they should no longer be on the job. And if that's the way Capitol Police communicate, well, I have news for the people that are working in there. You're not protected anyway, because the entire thing was completely it was a disaster tactically, as far as defensively, as far as that goes.
Jonathan, Brett, appreciate your insights into this as we continue to get reports.
You got it.